and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Okay, let's hit our next story.
All right, let's get the news glasses
So
on.
as you guys know, because YouTube algorithm is as it is, we got to be very careful how we talk about this, but this is quite a segment.
Bill Gates is in the news, along with his good friend.
Yes.
Maybe we should... well, no, I'll start with the CNN story, then we can go to the clip phase. So this comes from CNN.
Oh, yeah, and just real quick, for Facebook, just make sure, try to keep his name from appearing as much as you can.
Yeah, we don't want the YouTube algorithms to prevent us from actually reporting news and presenting facts and names of actual alleged sexual predators and all the other mainstream news stations
allegedly killed themselves in a cell in New York.
Allegedly hung themselves in that cell. So this comes from CNN. Microsoft founder Bill Gates regrets his gatherings with his good friend, and we know who his good friend was, the wealthy financial manager who was accused of child sex trafficking, he told CNN on Wednesday. It was a huge mistake to spend time with him, to give him the credibility of being there, Gates said. Speaking with CNN's Anderson Cooper Wednesday, Gates said he only met with Epstein in the hopes of raising more money to deal with the global health issues. I had several dinners with him, you know, hoping that what he said about getting billions of philanthropy for global health through contacts that he might emerge, might emerge, Gates said. When it looked like that wasn't a real thing, that relationship ended. Faze, let's run the interview.
There's a couple of things of reporting that have been out there I want to ask you about, and I think it's no one's business what happens in a person's marriage. The New York Times and Wall Street Journal both reported in recent months that Melinda was concerned about a relationship you had with Jeffrey Epstein, who at the time you met him in 2011 had been already convicted of soliciting prostitution from a minor. The Times reported she hired divorce attorneys around the time in October 2019 when that contact with Epstein became public. Can you explain your relationship with Epstein? Did you have any concerns? Was there ever any concerns you had about it?
Oh, certainly. You know, I had several dinners with him, you know, hoping that what he said about getting billions of philanthropy for global health through contacts that he had might emerge. You know, when it looked like that wasn't a real thing, that relationship ended. But it was a huge mistake to spend time with him, to give him the credibility of, you know, being there. There were lots of others in that same situation, but I made a mistake.
There's been reporting about workplace behavior in the past. The New York Times reported 6 women from Microsoft, the company you created, your foundation, and the financial firm that manages your fortune said that your behavior at times created an uncomfortable workplace environment. I know a spokeswoman for you acknowledged you had an affair 20 years ago with a Microsoft employee that she said ended amicably. Do you have regrets?
Well, certainly I think everyone does, but you know, it's a time of reflection, and you know, I
see a little choked up there.
You know, at this point, I need to go forward.
Yeah, sure you do.
You know, my work is very important to me.
His work as a global monopolist, you know, with
within the family, we'll
patents
heal as best we can.
Affordable
I need to talk to this guy to
learn
raise
from
money,
what's happened.
Says the billionaire.
Just on a personal level, I'm sorry for what you and your family are going through.
So I give Anderson Cooper credit for asking that question, but he didn't do any follow-up. Now, was it a mistake?
Wait, you're telling me someone on CNN,
can you believe it,
didn't do journalism? That blows my mind.
Now, it was a mistake, all right, because given the fact that his wife, Melinda Gates, was routinely donating money through the Gates Foundation to fight sex trafficking. It's, I think, what ultimately led to their divorce. Can you imagine? He's hanging out with Epstein while she's fighting sex trafficking with all the donations that their foundation is. What the hell are you doing? What are you doing spending time with this guy?
I thought they were talking about Bill Nye.
Now, keep in mind also, okay, in July of 2019, federal prosecutors in New York unsealed a criminal indictment accusing Epstein of having operated a sex trafficking ring. We know that whole story. Now, the thing is that Gates was meeting with Epstein after the 2009 indictment. So you know that, you know that Gates's friend is a scumbag, but Gates still feels like he's got to go see if his friend can give him money, even though he's one of the richest men in the world. He needs money from his friend. for these other global initiatives that he's spearheading. So let's go to article from The Cut. This came from Mia Mercado, and this was reported May 17th of 2021. Regarding the relationship between Bill Gates and his good friend. They first met in 2011 after his good friend pled guilty to soliciting sex from a minor. On January 31st, 2011, Gates and his good friend met in person for the first time at his good friend's New York City townhouse, according to the Times. This was less than 2 years after his good friend was released from jail in 2009, where he served 13 months for prostitution of an underage girl. At that time, Bill Gates' good friend had been accused of assault by 36 women and girls, some as young as 14, but only served time for one count of soliciting sex from a minor and one count of soliciting prostitution. So Gates is hanging out with this guy, again, while his wife is fighting sex trafficking. Sources have alleged Gates met up with Epstein dozens of times after their initial meeting, including at least 3 visits to the Manhattan townhouse and 2013 trip to New York, in which Bill and his good friend met for dinner and discussed the Gates Foundation and philanthropy. Earlier that year, Gates reportedly flew on his good friend's private jet, though spokespeople for Gates claim he was unaware the plane belonged to Epstein. There were alleged conversations about Epstein. I'm sorry, Daniel. It's like I'm trying to rush through this, and I keep forgetting to. Sorry.
Wait, hey, sorry, YouTube.
Sorry,
We're
YouTube.
not being as good as we need to. Blah blah blah.
I'm rushing through the story so much. I'm missing how I've got to prevent us from sharing the real name of the person we're reporting
Because
on.
this is what news is in the U.S. now, folks.
There were alleged conversations about Bill's good friend getting involved with the Gates Foundation. Former colleagues allege the two were in talks to involve the good friend with Gates's philanthropic. How do you get the good friend to donate money to the philanthropic foundation, of which they're donating money to help protect people from sex trafficking?
It's really difficult, but I'm sure if we hire Andrew Cuomo's lawyer, she can tell us how it works.
I bet that she'll get right down to the bottom of it. Gates Philanthropic Foundation, which dedicates some of its efforts to the empowerment and well-being of girls and women. When foundation board members asked about Gates' relationship with his good friend, they were told the relationship was quote-unquote focused on philanthropy and nothing more, a source recently told the Wall Street Journal. When Gates' encounters with his good friend surfaced in 2019, he downplayed the relationship. When asked about his good friend in September of 2019, interview with the Wall Street Journal, Gates said, "I met him. I didn't have any business relationship or friendship with him." So when we go back to the CNN article, Gates declined to respond to the Wall Street Journal's reporting that his social connection with his good friend played a role in his divorce from Melinda French Gates, which was finalized this week. It's a time of reflection, and at this point, I need to go forward, as you all saw in the clip. The tech magnate has focused most of his time in recent years on global health issues through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, whose leader recently told staffers that the Gates family would determine over the next 2 years whether it's possible for them to continue their foundation work together. If not, Bill Gates will pay his ex-wife to leave the foundation using his own personal funds. I wonder if they'll stop helping people who are sex trafficked after his wife leaves. Gates told CNN he hopes Melinda French Gates will stay. That would definitely be the best thing for the foundation, Gates said. Melinda has incredible strengths that she brings that helps the foundation be better. So it was in 2006 that the Gates Foundation awarded $5 million to fight sex trafficking. To the International Justice Mission, a human rights organization based in Washington, D.C., they announced that a $5 million grant from the Seattle-based Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to create a replicable model for combating sex trafficking and slavery. So you've got Melinda Gates fighting sex trafficking for years while Bill's got his best friend that he's trying to squeeze money from for, I don't know what, since, I mean, Bill Gates got a lot of money. I don't know what he needs to raise more money. It's insane. It's crazy. Now, why is this important? When you consider the fact that Bill Gates, who's a monopolist and is now trying to monopolize public health, and you wonder about what his good friend's tentacles had on him. I mean, Gates was like a regular visitor, I think, to Pedophile Island. He flew there quite often. And his good friend was also giving him marital advice when he was having problems with Melinda Gates.
Well, that worked out.
Didn't that? I mean, essentially, the marital advice is what led to the divorce. But I think we also, need to look at this as how this guy's tentacles got all over Gates and everybody else. I mean, I think the going theory is that he was U.S. or Israeli intelligence to basically trap people in honeypot situations. You get dirt on everybody, and you're able to control the interests of whoever you're working as an asset for. And when you consider all the stuff that Bill Gates is involved in, I mean, Bill Gates is not a good guy. He's got a good PR team that managed to make him look like he was doing all this good work through his foundation. But this is a guy, he was a sleazy businessman with what he did in developing Microsoft back in the days when he wasn't he friends with, he worked with the founder of Apple. How am I forgetting his name? He passed away.
Steve Jobs?
Steve Jobs, yeah. Yeah, they had developed some stuff together, didn't they?
You know, when when he first put his operating system together, which of course had enough holes in it that you always needed someone with IT to help fix it. It was actually his parents, who were lawyers in the federal government, that made it the mandatory operating system for
Gates. Did not know that. I did not know that.
Then it's like, oh my God, how did he amass so much wealth and power? By basically monopolizing the operating system of the entire federal government when everything was coming in line, and thus making it the default format, much like porn defines DVDs or Blu-ray. Very similar path. And then, of course, he had this brilliant idea of adjusting America's education policy to be a little more... Well, just all the programs he's gone that just have failed. Like, how many millions, like, I don't know, like, there's so many things he's done in this foundation that people have been like, oh yeah, he's a billionaire, he knows what he's doing. How many American kids have had their lives diminished, destroyed because of the philanthropic path of Gates? And then I still love that he's like, I was meeting him for dinner to try and, connect with people because, me, Bill Gates, don't have a lot of money. Also, can't get a hold of anyone I need to.
And now he wants to control patents with vaccines, so pharmaceutical companies can make millions instead of making it all affordable for everybody in the middle of this global pandemic. I mean, he's done with monopolizing.
That's called philanthropy.
That's philanthropy. That's U.S. philanthropy. That's the U.S. definition of philanthropy. Yeah. So, interesting deep dive as far as what's happening with all of our leaders in this country that are just so incredibly corrupt and involved in predatory behavior.
Yeah, it's guys. I hope we got through that, and YouTube hasn't demonetized the entire show. No, it's just YouTube's fun like that, guys. This is the joys of being on YouTube. You can't even, as a news organization, report a story that CNN can easily do a title. And CNN has done this segment on YouTube, and they are getting $50 per 1,000 views. And here we are, trying to give you the same story. Thank you to all our Patreon supporters. Thank you to everyone who gives us super chats and donations. We would not be able to do this without you.